Okay. So my name is Syrzistie, and as mentioned, I am spending most of 2022 in Tartu, Estonia, where I'm a European Solidarity Corps volunteer for TAIPA, a letterpress and paper art center. And I'm going to give a bit of a background to things that I've done previously and ways in which I found different opportunities and funding for those projects. So I was first introduced to Letterpress during my studies at Glasgow School of Art. I studied communication design and specialized in illustration. Another pathway was graphic design, and I always felt like I was somewhere in between the two, and letterpress printing allowed me for a way to combine both graphic design and image making. I had access to an amazing workshop called The Case Room, which was and still is run by Edwin Pickstone, who is super knowledgeable about all things letterpress. And during my studies, I worked within both design and printmaking. And here's just a small example of the type of work that I've done here, letterpress being more of a subject matter rather than a process that I used. This is a project about the Duff's type, which some of you might be familiar with, but if you're not, it's basically a early 20th century typeface, which got destroyed by its owner, and 100 years later, retrieved from the riverbed in Hammersmith, London. So yeah, this project sort of played with narrative and sculpture and water-like qualities to portray the story. After graduating, I was invited to participate in a graduate letterpress residency in the Case Room SWD3, which is basically a private letterpress studio of my former letterpress tutor. And it was just a really good opportunity to continue working within letterpress, but also not necessarily having to stick to the design aspect. But unfortunately, that came to an end within half a year as the pandemic started, and I was no longer able to go in regularly. So I had a bit of a break from letterpress. But in September 2020, I was awarded a graduate award from House of Print, which is basically an organization based in the UK supporting printmakers, both ones that are starting out as well as professional printmakers. And the award consisted of being allocated to a specific studio. In my case, that was Hotbed Press, and being given 60 hours of access to work within the studio. And as soon as I was sort of certain that I was going, I also applied to iPortimus, which is a Creative Europe funding program, which allows artists to travel between different European countries, which basically meant that I was able to get accommodation, flights, and living expenses covered during my 3-week stay. And as of February 2022, I have relocated to Tartu for the upcoming year. I'm a European Solidarity Corps volunteer, which basically is a program for 18 to 30-year-olds to get to experience living abroad, as well as gaining work experience, which in my case is very sort of career specific. And Taipa works predominantly as a print museum, but it also has an educational program. It functions as a working print studio and offers artist residencies. And since arriving, I've been sort of introduced to different letterpress equipment, including ones that sort of commercial sized ones, which I never had the opportunity to work with before. And I'm also able to use some of my working hours to work on personal projects, which I'm currently still developing and hopefully will be able to share in the near future. Thank you.